Happy Monday. So today we're going to do populations and samples. And the reason why we're going to do populations and samples is because we're going to talk about data. Data. What is data? Data is when you collect information. You collect information on a specific subject, on a specific subject. For example, I want to know on Hamburger Day who actually eats hamburgers and who don't. So I will collect information. I might ask all the students in the cafeteria, what are you going to eat today? Are you going to eat a hamburger? And then I collect the data. I can tally it. I can make tables. I can write numbers for how many actually ate a hamburger or who didn't. So data is when we collect information on a specific subject. Which brings me to the word population. Population are all the people that I can ask about the data. All the people that I can ask about the data. All the people I can ask about the data. If we come back to the hamburgers, it could be every single child in this school. It could be every single adult in this school. The population would be all of Graham Middle. Now, sorry about that. We are not going to ask every single person in school. It's going to take too long. So we pull a sample. A sample is part of that population. Part of the population. Now, here comes the big question. So, who do I ask? This is where the word random comes in. Random. Random is when you ask maybe every fifth person coming through the line, or maybe every third person coming through the line at the cafeteria, maybe every third adult. You asking randomly. So you're not asking a specific group, you're asking all around asking, okay? Now, let's come back to samples. There are two types of samples. There is an unbiased sample. Now, an unbiased sample is a good representation of the whole population. So an unbiased sample is, number one, a good representation of the whole population. So for our hamburger question, we would ask some 6th graders, some 7th graders, some 8th graders, and some adults. That would mean that the whole of Graham Middle is well represented. Also, if it's unbiased, you are selecting a random group of people. Select a random group of people. But this group cannot just be any group. This group has to be large enough. Select a random group which is large enough. And provides accurate data. Okay? For example, I ask 26th graders, like maybe every 5th, 6th grader that comes through the door, I might ask them. Every 5th, 7th grader, every 5th, 8th grader, and maybe every 5th adult in the building. That would mean that there's a good representation of all the people in Graham Middle. I randomly selected them because I said every 5th person. I didn't just go to my friends. It's large enough because every 5th, 6th, and 7th grader and 8th grader will be big enough group for me to make assumptions on, and it provides accurate data. So on the flip side of that, there are biased samples. A biased sample is going to be the opposite of an unbiased sample. It is not a good representation of the whole of the population. Not a good representation of the whole population. It wasn't selected randomly, it was selected specifically. Selected specifically instead of random. And one or more parts of the whole of the population is favored. I'll give you an example. Let's go back to the hamburgers. Let's say we stand at the line where the kids get their food, and the selection was either a hot dog or a hamburger. If I ask all the kids who picked up a hamburger if they liked a hamburger, then that would be biased, because I'm not doing it randomly and I'm favoring only a certain part of the population. So my data will not be accurate. It will not represent the whole population very well. In class today, we are going to do some examples of population and samples and biased samples and unbiased samples, what the word random actually means in context, and just practice to see if we can find good answers for the populations and the samples. I'm going to go ahead and underline these important words and phrases, and then we can do work in class. Thank you, guys.